Cyberpunk is easily one of my favorite genres when it comes to story and aesthetics in a video game. The stark contrast of dark themes and bright colors really brings to life an atmosphere like no other genre can. Ruiner shows us off well in its main city known as Rengok. Its illumination by bright street lights and neon signs only brings a spotlight to the shady dealings that happen under the government's, or in this case a corporation known as Heaven's, watchful eyes. While the trailers for this game mainly showcase a character who seems to have an insatiable bloodlust, Ruiner itself tries to show that there is much more to it than that. Ruiner is an isometric shooter that I've seen related to other games such as the likes of Hotline Miami. However, its setting, writing, art style, and core gameplay definitely set it apart from other titles. The gameplay is fluid right out of the gate with the player being dropped into a compound with 2 words left to guide them. Those 2 words are very simple: kill, boss. This area serves as a tutorial area and it works out very well. I felt prepared after completing this mission, and I had a general idea of how difficult things could get. Ruiner is a game that can ramp up its difficulty at times without much warning. However, it spreads these parts out by filling the gaps with sections that will punish you if you're not careful, but they won't push you to your very limit. The gameplay mainly consists of fast-paced action that has the player dashing around to outmaneuver enemies while filling them full of lead. There's a moderately sized armory of weapons available that range from swords for melee to rocket launchers and machine guns for when you need to keep your distance. Ammo for weapons you come across is very limited, which made me make sure to make my shots count. Despite how powerful some ranged weapons could be though, as the game progressed I found myself sticking to melee since it was the playstyle that I found the most success with. All this coupled with special abilities gained by leveling up makes your character a one-man army capable of eviscerating waves of enemies at their leisure. Unfortunately, even with a decent setting and the promise of fast-paced gameplay, Ruiner has some blurring issues that I'd like to touch on right away. My main issue is with the thing I just outlined. While the gameplay presents itself as something that can get difficult, its leveling system does a great job of circumventing that intention. Leveling up is rather simple. You gain karma through doing side quests, finding it in boxes, or by using a weapon grinder that spawns at the end of every section cleared. You can then spend karma on abilities that are available, and if you want to change up your playstyle, you can pull some points out of certain skills and put them back into other ones. It's a pretty basic system, but where the problem lies is in the abilities themselves. There are abilities in Ruiner that allowed me to completely pacify bosses. I was allowed to simply stand in front of enemies and spam a stun while dishing out the hurt. If I avoided using this stun, I still had an option to put up walls that blocked bullets and slowed other foes. I'd say that this is a pretty anti-fun way to play, and to an extent it is on the player to decide whether or not they want to play this way, but I dislike that it's even an option. The way I see it, having abilities this overpowered in a game that's supposed to be a challenge is very poor design. There are many different methods that could have been implemented to easily avoid this issue, but they aren't in the game. Again, I could see an argument made that if it bugs someone that much they could just choose not to use these skills, but I think something is wrong when I have to willingly limit my choices just to get the experience I felt was intended. Unfortunately, that's not the only problem I have with Ruiner. The second thing on its cons list is its writing. Even at the beginning, I can't help but feel disappointed when things start to get rolling. You play as someone who is basically a nobody. There's no information about them revealed as you play until you hit the end. Absolutely nothing. At the beginning, I'm okay with that because I expect to learn more as the game progresses, but when I realized that this wasn't the case, I felt very disheartened. If I have no connection to the character, why do I care? Sure, there are plenty of games where the player's initial knowledge of a character is 0 and it's all saved up for some big reveal, but those games give the person experiencing it something else to latch onto. Either it's something simple like small hints here or there, or it's something as big as an entirely different character to care about. Ruiner doesn't do either of these things. My commitment to keep playing was simply just to keep playing. After some time, I finally just chose to latch onto the evolution of the city of Rengok, that is, if it did evolve. An attempt to make you care is shown. For example, in the starting zone, your character's life is threatened if he doesn't carry out his main objective. However, this feels super underwhelming when I'm surrounded by colorful hallucinations and an interesting world, yet the start of all of this is just something as plain and unimaginative as a death threat. As I said, this doesn't get any better because once you're past this part, the writing fills you with questions that never get answers until the very end. These questions appear when the main character is told that their brother was taken and they have to go find them. A setup like this leaves me with inquiries as simple as, who is my brother? What kind of person is he? How close is my character to him? Why does my character care? I need these answers because if my character has a reason to care, then I have a reason to care. Something as simple as family ties, however, fails to stoke any interest within me. I think the worst offense this story is guilty of is being very predictable. The amount of things that I was able to correctly infer with the information I got when leaving the tutorial is really sad, and there's just no other way to put it. All of the imagination went into the creation of the world within Ruiner, but the story that guides you around the world is pretty abysmal. The world, which mainly consists of the portion of South Rengok that the player is allowed to explore, is actually pretty interesting. You find quite a few different personalities as you'd expect from the part of town where the shadier types go. I found myself getting more and more interested in everything except my own character, who doesn't talk or really do anything except for nod, shrug, crack his knuckles, and brutally waste enemies. I just wish there was more time spent in this area than the 3 instances we were given to explore it. As far as visuals and audio goes, I mainly have praise for these 2 categories. The soundtrack is fantastic. Nothing gets the blood pumping quite like blasting enemies with some heavy/dark electronica in the background. The little voice acting this game does have is great, adding a little flair to various sections and dialogue. Visuals when you're in the isometric view aren't anything to faint over, but they don't look bad, and I'd even go as far as to say that they are eye-catching. The only time the game looks a bit unattractive is when it goes into any cutscene and you're allowed to see the models up close. Ruiner was a game I was definitely looking forward to immediately after watching its trailer at E3 this year. As far as I'm concerned, there aren't enough solid Cyberpunk themed games, and I saw this as a chance for a new title to step up and help ameliorate that problem. Sadly, it isn't the big hit I was hoping for, but at a price point of $20, it's still a fun experience that I could recommend to others. The writing itself is bad, but the audio, visuals, and gameplay are enough to make up for it, even if that means not choosing certain abilities and handicapping yourself a bit. For more reviews on video games and hardware alike, as well as first looks, editorials, and build guides, be sure to head over to KBMOD.com.